Our last edit mode, which we get to by pressing F4, is grid mode. And grid mode forces my selections and my edits to be on a grid. How do we set the grid? Well, we do it over here. From the grid menu, I can choose bars and beats. I can also line up by time. If I'm working with video, time code, feet and frames. I can even line up by samples or by regions and markers, and we'll cover that later. If follow main timescale is set, then whatever my main timescale is, let's say it's minutes and seconds, my grid is now by second. If I go back to bars and beats, it's in terms of bars and beats. Let's line up the grid to 1 bar. And now I'm in grid mode. Let's move this. And you'll notice that it snaps on the beat. So this was originally at measure 104, beat 4, 657 ticks. If I move it to the left, it's right at 102, right on the beat. Now, it would be nice if I could see the grid, and I can just by clicking here, and now my grid turns on. If I change it to half notes, you can see these blue lines are my half notes, and I can drag back and forth. If I make a selection, by the way, my selection will automatically conform to the grid. So that allows me to cut a specific unit of my region. Let's say 1 bar or 1 beat or 1 half note or what have you. Now there's also a relative grid. If I hit F4 or I choose from the menu, it turns purple and I get relative grid. What is relative grid? Well, look at this region again. When I undo, we were back at measure 104, beat 4, 657 ticks. In regular grid, that will line up directly to the bar. However, if I'm in relative grid and I move it, you'll notice it's now at 101, beat 4, 657 ticks. It moves relative to the grid, but keeps the same position. And that's really nice if I've got a groove going and I want to shift everything, but I don't want to lose my groove. I want to keep things a little off the beat. Relative grid is the way to do that. Now there's one new feature in Pro Tools 8 which is really handy, and that's where we can combine grid mode with one of the other modes. Now why would you want to do that? Well, when I combine grid mode with the other modes, I can select in grid mode, but drag in slip, or spot, or shuffle mode. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to choose grid and then shift-click slip. Now I'm going to select with my selector tool, F7. I'm going to select a region, and you can see that it is all snapping to the beat. Okay, so let's just drag right here. And now when I drag with my grabber tool, I can drag it off the beat. I'm selecting in grid mode, but I'm dragging in slip mode. And the same behavior works if I do grid and shift-click spot or grid and shift-click shuffle, although my shuffle lock is on. I'll turn that off by command-clicking it. I can do grid and shuffle. Now I can select an area in grid mode and then shuffle, and the whole thing snaps to the left. So just to summarize, we've got grid mode, absolute. We've got relative grid mode. We can set the grid over here. We can turn on and off the display of the grid by clicking here. And we can shift-click the grid with another one of the edit modes to select in grid mode, but move in another mode. And that's grid mode.